I'm Dr. Kemi for Kemi Talks Media. Another thing I want to say is believability in Africa when you're reporting news. There are two factors that you need to consider, even as a female journalist. And I'm going to specifically mention the female here. When you report something, okay, it's like how much does believability have to do with your sex? A lot. We don't pay attention to it because we always feel, oh, we're journalists, they're going to believe us. And this is where abusing the power of journalism comes in. Some journalists that will actually distort stories and make something look different because they have the power to do so with their platform or their media houses. Now, this is something I personally hate. I don't do it. I'm very professional, but I caution people against those who do it. The ones that accuse us of doing it are usually the ones that the story didn't favor them. So let me tell you a little bit about believability because I have a personal experience. I always use an example. In 2014, I was standing at the balcony of our house in Ibadan, Nigeria. A very good view, the air, the leaves, the trees, and of course the cars passing by. You know, it's a major thoroughway there. While I was on the balcony, I heard two shots. I looked left and the shots were coming from up the hill where the road slopes down. And I couldn't figure out what had happened, but I just saw all the hawkers. Hawkers are people that sell things, they put it on their heads, mangoes, drinks, everything. They always hawk in traffic, meaning when they slow down on that corner coming down the hill, they can sell something to someone. Now, the way this street is, it's in Ikolaba, Nigeria, by the way. Everybody knows the Olunloyo house in Ikolaba. When you get to the top of the hill, there's a speed bump that actually slows you down. So you go on it and you keep moving. And this is the part where people tend to buy snacks and all that. There are actually two speed bumps. One when you're coming in the corner and one right there when you turn to our street. Now, right around that speed bump, I just saw the hawkers fleeing. Everybody had things on their heads, on the ground. Everybody was scattered. They were scattered. I'm like, what's going on? But I know what I heard. Two shots. Next thing you know, two or three bikes just went by. I didn't pay attention to them, but something had happened up that way. By the time the chaos was down, a lot of people just ran towards one particular car. Whatever happened in that car, there were two dead people inside. So I go downstairs, I open the gate, and my mom's like, lock that gate. Nobody must go out, so that people won't come in or something. But I had to go out as a journalist. As I walked towards the hill to see what was going on, there was a car with a driver and passenger, both dead. They were sitting in the car and their heads were like this, and, they were bleeding heavily. And only God knows. I just said, these guys are dead. They were not moving, nothing, no pulse. So when we discovered that they had no pulse and everything, meaning they were dead, there were people who were calling the police, the ambulance. We don't have a streamlined system in Nigeria where you can just dial 911. People were just calling to police stations and all. There's a police station in my area, so they call the Calabar police station. Okay, so when the police got there, they determined that the people were actually dead. They rushed them to UCH Hospital, which was also nearby, University College Hospital. And two people just lost their lives right there. A witness now comes to me and says, Dr. Kemi, I saw everything that happened. Okay, who are you? The girl now said, okay, my name is Nike. You know me. I always sell mangoes up there. Okay? Now, let me tell you how this works because you must protect the source in journalism. The person that actually sold the mangoes that called me to tell me what happened, her name is not Nike. Her real name is not Nike. I've always used Nike as the name for this story when I tell it. I said, oh, you're the mango lady that just finished her NYSC. Da-da-da. Okay, what happened? Two men were on a bike. They were following this car for a long time. And when the car slowed down to the speed bump, they opened fire at the people in the front. Then they went into the boot, that's the trunk of the car, and took out a bag and they fled on the bike. Those bikes that fled near me were actually the bikes of the thieves. It was a robbery. The two people in the car, after investigation and everything, were pastors. These pastors, they just collected a lot of money, close to 16 million naira. For 2014, that's a lot of money. They picked up that money in cash from a GT bank in Bodija. And so they were going back to church, house, wherever they're going with 16 million. The robbers saw them at GT and they trailed them. GT told me this has been going on a long time, that people were being trailed from our bank to places and were being robbed. GT had to discuss that with their own company and all. It's a bank after all, and the other banks around. So we now put this thing about, if you're going to a bank in Nigeria, be careful. Try as much as possible to use mobile money or some form of transfer instead of carrying this cash with you. The transfer system hadn't been popular too much in 2014, but at the end of the day, it is now. Later on, I went to Calabar High School, like maybe a year later, to do a talk to the students there. And the teachers were there, the assembly cheering me up, and the students. And one particular teacher, when the kids were done and they had to go in the classroom and I had to leave, one particular teacher came up to me and said, "Oh, hi, Dr. Kemi." I'm like, "Oh, hello, how are you? Thank you so much for what you do for these kids and all that." I was telling her as the teacher. She said, "Can I have a minute to talk to you?" And she was sad. I'm like, "Teacher wants to talk to me." I said, "Yeah, talk to me now. What's going on?" The teacher said, "Do you remember the shooting here last year in front of your house? The person at the driver's seat?" I said, "Yeah, what about?" She now said, "That is my husband." Like, I was like, "Wait, you're a teacher in this school and your husband was the person that got killed outside?" Oh, wow. And they were coming home that day. So that teacher lived in the neighborhood, worked in the neighborhood, and her husband, the pastor of the church. She told me the entire story. It was sad. It was a tragedy. Both died and all that. But when they were taken to the hospital, I knew they were dead already because they had no pulse. When they were taken to the hospital and the police cleared everything, and everybody went back to their normal business, because at 2:00, school is going to come out and students are going to be walking that way. The students walked down that way like nothing happened. They didn't see any of that stuff. Everything was cleared at 11 a.m. when this happened, 9:30, no, 10:30, 11. So now the students come by, and excuse me, guys, when those students came through, can you actually tell them that something like this happened here? They won't believe you. So it's a matter of believability. That's the example I want to give you guys. Okay, as I taught journalism and media studies on a handle called @2222 Media School on X. Go to X and see. It's closed now. That's my online school. I closed it when I retired. @2222 Media School. It's called 222 Media Institute. I started the project as a 3-year project, February of 2022, which was actually 2222 to February 2025. A 3-year project, and I did it for free for everyone. Everybody paid me tuition, and then at the end, I paid them back their tuition. It was a philanthropic project that I did, and they didn't know. But at the end of the day, people, you can see all the tweets and see how I teach journalism. Would I want to teach in a school, a big school, and all that? I don't know yet, but for now, I'm going to be able to give you a lot of talks and free information. And I want you to know that sometimes believability is hard. Like, do you know somebody was shot here today? They wouldn't even believe it. Did they believe what I said? Did it happen? And this is what news is about. Did it actually happen? I'm in a very noisy area, sorry. Did it actually happen? Yes, it happened. But because they didn't see it. This is the problem we have in news now. One, they might look at, this woman journalist, she's not blah, blah, blah. We have this problem, and it's very, very, very rampant in news now. It didn't happen. You made it up. So believability is very, very poor in Africa. In America, it's different. But if they don't see it on TV or radio or newspaper, they don't believe you. So the independent journalist has a problem with believability. And this is like why we're mostly called, the fake news. They paid us to make some story up. No, I don't take bribes. I don't take bribes. I've never taken a brown envelope for anything. It's against the ethics of journalism. Nobody should. So you have to have a sense of how you're going to let people know that this happened and you must believe it happened. Female journalists are very, very, dragged down for that, because if it's male journalists saying the very same thing, they'll believe. A newspaper called me later that day and said, "Hey, Kemi, there was a shooting in front of your house. Did you get anything?" I said, "Yeah, I got everything." And I even filed that story for that paper. Imagine.